Good morning, everyone. This is Sebastiano Toffaletti, the European Digital SME Alliance. I'm very glad to kick off the 2021 Digital SME Blockchain Summit. This event was successfully organized in 2020 with our Blockchain Summit, which was the first edition. And it generated a lot of interest and success. So following that event, that edition, based on the strategic importance of the blockchain sector for Europe and the growing interest from our SME members, we're glad to continue the series with this event and see where we stand one year after. Indeed, the past year was rich in the blockchain sector, in policy and in business. We have seen the emergence of non-fungible tokens, for instance. We have seen a greater adoption of cryptocurrencies, central bank digital currencies. There was a lot of interest in that as well, and many more things. From the policy side, we are having initiatives on the Commission and on the institutions. We have a digital finance package which is under discussion. So there has been, many initiatives. Rosanna, you can move the other speakers while I'm talking. And on the digital SME side, on our association side, we have been quite active in blockchain, besides all the other digital areas. In particular, we launched a task force on blockchain and distributed ledger technologies, which puts together the most interested of our members or our experts to discuss what is happening in blockchain. We joined a new flagship funded initiative funded by the Commission, which is called Chase, that aims at deliver the blockchain skills. So to close the digital skills gap, which, as you will agree, is one of the fundamental issues that we have. We have organized a lot of interesting discussions, events, a webinar on non-fungible tokens, for instance, which raised a lot of interest. We are, as we were last year, we are partners in another interesting EU-funded initiative, which is called BlockIS, which is investing, which is distributing 2.8 million euros to startups and SMEs in the blockchain sector to boost the adoption of the technology. And thanks to this BlockIS project, we will have today, we will be able to showcase a few success stories, a few use cases of SMEs are successfully adopting the blockchain technology. We will have 5 of them in the second panel. It's going to start around 11 this morning, in companies in agri-food, in logistics, in data sharing, monetization, in the cyber security, and so on. Really, we are glad that we are part of this BlockIS initiative, because it helps us really fund and connect with the right SMEs out there. So the summit of this year will focus on how European SMEs can make the most out of blockchain technologies, and discuss if the European blockchain ecosystem, including the regulatory framework that is on its way, is innovation friendly enough. Now, before we dive into the topics with our 2 panels, I'm very glad to introduce our keynote speaker of today, Mr. Peter Geršak, who is State Secretary for Digital Transformation in the government of Slovenia. And we are delighted to have a representative of Slovenia in today's event. First of all, because Slovenia, as you know, currently holds the presidency of the EU Council, and has set the progress in digital finance, in the digital finance package, as one of its priorities. And secondly, also because Slovenia itself, as a country, is very active in blockchain sector, And Peter, you will mention this probably. You call yourselves the crypto country. So with this, I'm glad to give you the floor, Peter, for an introduction of our works today.
Thank you, dear Sebastiano. Do you hear me well?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Dear Sebastiano, dear participants, dear guests, I'm honored today to speak on the Digital SME Blockchain Summit 2021, and I'm glad to see the number of participants joining, and I also believe that more and more are joining. This is an important indicator that blockchain is becoming an inevitable part of our digitalization and digital transformation process for businesses, in which small and medium enterprises can play an important role. Yeah, SMEs are the engine of economic development. You probably know that approximately 99% of European economy consists of SMEs. Yeah, and they are the key. They are the focal point in shaping the enterprise policy in the EU. And as well, European Commission considers SMEs and entrepreneurship as key for ensuring economic growth, innovation, job creation, and of course, social integration in EU. But on the other hand, digital innovation and digital transformation is in the heart of European future development and progress. So advanced digital technologies are one of the most important forces in digital transformation in private sector, in public, and in economy as general, I would say. COVID-19 pandemic changed not only the way we are doing business, but the nature of business and as well behavioral patterns of many communities and societies. So technology became an important tool to overcome barriers and challenges raised by the huge impact of pandemic. Remote work and distant communications, like we have it right now, have enormous impact on the market. Certain markets have been disrupted. On the other hand, markets supported with digital technologies are growing and achieving actually historical growth rates. So traditionally, mostly large companies are facing challenges due to their rigid and unflexible businesses systems in which they are limited or even not able to adapt to quick transition to digital transformation. And this is a good opportunity for SMEs to increase their innovative potential and strengthen transfer of knowledge and innovative solution while leaning on the business processes of large, small, and medium enterprises. In Slovenia, as the first time in Europe, you mentioned Sebastiano. Now we are here now. We launched a call for proposal for demo or piloting projects. Yeah. And I believe that the call was advanced at least in 3 dimensions. First, we asked participants to integrate advanced digital technologies of fourth industrial revolution, blockchain, AI, IoT, big data, VR, AR, and so on, into the experimental and testing phases of the project itself. Second, we asked participants to create consortiums of large companies, SMEs, and startups with aim to increase innovative potential of all partners in the consortium. And third, we asked them to fulfill the sustainability criteria like economic, social, environmental criteria, and showing how the technology impacts sustainability. With this, we have made a step towards next industrial revolution, Industry 5.0. So at the end, we were proud to see that 65% of the projects were planning to use blockchain, and over 70% of projects planned to use artificial intelligence. On the other hand, during ICO hype, Slovenian projects and blockchain realized 5% of all global investment in 2017. The knowledge we received from those projects is very useful, and these are reasons, what I have mentioned, that Slovenia, we have been able to create strong ecosystem for blockchain actually starting in 2017, and which is composed actually from companies, researchers, civil society, and the government. And actually, Slovenian government played a significant role in creating the ecosystem. As a first EU member state, we adopted a strategic document called Action Plan for Blockchain in 2018. Areas of intervention together with sources of financing were identified, and as well regulatory challenges were as well addressed. In the following years, we co-created the European ecosystem within the cooperation in European blockchain partnership together with other member states and European Commission. So within this, there were piloted different pilots. For example, European blockchain services infrastructure, and use cases on EBSI like self-sovereign identity, diplomas on blockchain, traceability on blockchain, and EBSI as interoperable cross-border blockchain infrastructure will enable deployment of this in public and also in the future private sector on blockchain, solutions on blockchain. So Digital Euro program additionally foresees early adopters program for blockchain solutions through a variety of use cases and innovative projects. It can be also an important part of supporting ecosystem. Various programs have been provided on the European level as well to support digitalization and integration of blockchain solutions into the SMEs projects. And EIB also created a financial instrument dedicated to blockchain and AI SMEs in 2019. So besides financial supporting environment, several supporting environments have been created, from digital innovation hubs for blockchain to centers of excellence and other forums. There are innovative networks like Digital SME Alliance, which can substantially contribute to the strengthening of blockchain ecosystem in Europe. And as well, knowledge transfer and exchange of experiences, cooperation, even competition shall be the main lever of strong blockchain ecosystems. And piloting certain solutions on the SME level can also have a significant contribution to the transformation and adaptation of regulatory frameworks and environment. Co-creation of modern technology considering regulatory frameworks can be a result of a close cooperation between regulators and innovative digital, well, talking about blockchain SMEs. Maybe one of my last remarks here as well, innovative procurement gives the public sector also a great opportunity to embrace and integrate innovative technological solutions into public services and regulatory environments. Using digital identities for companies can be an imperative for agile, efficient businesses of the SMEs and for public services as well. Challenges we are facing in the last actually 8 months in this pandemic gives us an opportunity to make a significant step forward. This is also a great opportunity for SMEs to grow, become more resilient, and keep the primary growth factor in the next generation of EU. At the end, I would like to take the opportunity to invite you to the EU Blockchain Week 2025. 5 days conference event. You know that Slovenia is currently holding the presidency, and this event is in the framework of the presidency of Slovenia to the Council of the EU. I wish you a successful conference today, successful day, and thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much, Peter, for being with us today and for helping us to kick off this summit. You just mentioned the EU Blockchain Week, which, if I understand well, is starting now. So we are also glad to be, help kind of kick off this important week. The Slovenia, the initiative of Slovenia within the EU. And definitely, we are also very glad to have people like yourself who understand the importance of creating a thriving digital ecosystem for SMEs by SMEs in Slovenia and in the rest of Europe. With that, of course, you're very welcome to stay with us, and perhaps also to, if you have time, to participate in our discussion. I'd like to move forward with the first of our panels, which is where we'd like to discuss what are the current challenges for the blockchain SMEs in Europe, what are the barriers and opportunities for the development of this technology by SMEs and for SMEs, as I said earlier. That's why we have invited a little bit of a good mix of experts coming from businesses, but also policymakers, associations, academics, to really try to get the different perspectives and share a little bit of knowledge and ideas. So I will introduce the speakers that you see one by one, asking them the first question, and they will elaborate a little bit what they think about the topic, and then we'll go on with some discussion among the panelists, but definitely also with the audience. Let me remind you, as I'm talking about the audience, that we have an audience which is connected with us. It's people who have been invited and are able to participate directly, and so will possibly be able to take the floor. And then we are also streaming this event on social media channels like YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. So there might be also questions coming from there, because it is definitely possible, and we're going to check all the interventions. If people have questions or who are following on social media, we'll definitely try to give the floor also to at least to repeat the questions of these people to our speakers. So to start with, I'm very glad to introduce an old friend and an excellent expert in blockchain, Almudena de la Mata, who's connected from Madrid. Almudena is Director General at Blockchain Intelligence, which is a specialized company that provides advice on blockchain. She is a professor. She has a long experience in advising companies, but also governments, including the Commission on technology issues and legal issues. So, Almudena, we'd like to start with you, and perhaps the question I'd like to ask you is about the legal certainty in blockchain. Is there a need for a clearer regulation and guidelines as to enable mainstream adoption of blockchain in Europe? Is there enough legal certainty out there? What should we do to improve the legal framework, if we should do anything? And what are the policies in general that we could, envisage for the broader adoption of blockchain? I'm sure you have a lot of experience also working directly with SMEs yourself, so you can probably give us your point of view there.
Thank you very much. Thanks also for organizing this great summit. Yes, I mean, this all started basically working with mainly SMEs, blockchain companies altogether, that starting trying to do business, and they were facing different challenges that we will maybe discuss on here today. But at some point, they were developing things that regulators and especially supervisors could not really follow and could not really understand. So to me, the first message is we do have many legal challenges that I will try maybe to signal today. But we do have, regulation in place, and we do have a whole regulatory system and supervisory system, and this system can work also with the current blockchain companies to make this reality possible. Because the challenge we're facing today is that we have an exponential technology, which is very different from as a system from what we know because of the decentralized nature of blockchain, and that the solutions and the technology itself evolves so fast that it's very difficult to keep up with it regulatory wise. So what I think is that a very important point of attention lays with supervisors, because what we can do is interpret legislation in a way that we allow this technology to flourish, at least while we are developing new legislation or taking care of the regulatory challenges that we're facing. So first of all, what we did was creating the Blockchain Intelligence Law Institute to understand which were the main issues that were present regulatory-wise, but also work with supervisors and regulators that had to apply legislation to let them understand what is this all about, what are the differences to the products and realities that you are working with on a daily basis, because this is a new world, is a different world, but still laws can be interpreted in a way that this is made possible, at least to a certain point. So we started also this line of work with, training, regulation, capacity building in the core of supervisors to allow this discussion. And I think this was very, very productive. We saw the results also years back with the STOs movement, that ICOs and STOs. So basically, regulators and supervisors were able to understand what is this, and should we apply, for instance, regulation on capital markets here, or is it a completely different situation, and then we leave it aside? And this was very, very useful. So considering these issues, I think we also need to take into account two levels for regulation. One is the infrastructure level, and another one is the applications level or solutions level. Application level needs to be, I think, approached from a regulatory perspective. And with this, I mean, what is the governance, the appropriate governance of a blockchain? Right now, for instance, we see many solutions out there that claim to be blockchain solutions, blockchain-based solutions, and then, their governance is so weak that I actually would never say this is blockchain. I would never say this, the hashes that are in there or the information that is in there is immutable, which is something that we're pleading from blockchain. So we need to be very careful about what we call blockchain, and this can be set up, I think, regulatory wise. There are important issues, as we all know, and they are being dealt with regulation on privacy, GDPR. There are issues to define on how we define the jurisdiction that applies to blockchain-based solutions, which is also a key issue. Things with validation algorithms. I think these are all related to the infrastructures, and I think we need to approach that. This is being approached currently from the point of view of standardization, but I think this might not be enough if we want to build a very sustainable long-term environment, which is very productive for blockchain. And parallel to that, we are developing solutions, and these I think need to be approached on a case-by-case basis and see whether there are elements in the specific regulations for these verticals, such as energy industry, or of course in financial markets, such as it's being done with MiCAR, for instance, and then see whether there are needs to apply specific changes in legislation. But for me, the main key message here would be supervisors are very important. Knowledge, both on the regulator side, but also on legislation side, but also on the supervisor side, is very, very important to let them understand the true nature of decentralized networks. And the path is so fast that we need principle-based approach regulation here and technology neutral. That would be maybe my first answer, and not getting into the nitty-gritties of specific legislations as you asked me to.
Okay, Almudena, I mean, you mentioned many interesting aspects. So I hope we have time to go a little bit more in detail with you, because I think you really, there could be many issues to dig more into. But let me continue then, perhaps giving the floor to someone who really comes from the business community. I'm thinking about Petko Karamochev, who's an entrepreneur himself. Is a member of the Digital SME Alliance, and he's also the chairman of our new task, the co-chairman of our new task force on blockchain and DLTs. So, Petko, as a blockchain expert and chairman of our task force, what do you think are the current and main hurdles for European blockchain SMEs to run a successful business? Also, perhaps leveraging on what Almudena just explained.
Thank you, Sebastiano. We've been discussing this in the task force group a couple of weeks ago, probably a couple of days ago, and we've identified a lot of kind of a potential issues, and one of them is obviously, I know that we've been talking about this for quite some time, but there's a little bit of obfuscation, like, is it blockchain? Is it cryptocurrency? What is it? Is it Bitcoin? What is it like? What is the problem that we want to solve? So anyway, one of the issues is for the adoption of the technology is the absolute lack of knowledge, both in terms of kind of the regulators that absolutely don't know what's the issue that we're solving. Both some of the industry players, they also lack the understanding of what they're doing, and also the public administrations, except probably for some of the cryptocurrencies. So anyway, just wanted to highlight this. We need to know what is the problem that we want to be solving. Also, there's as the previous speaker said, there's a lot of issues kind of concerning the governance rules. What is the sovereignty? What is the thing that we want to kind of share? So primarily for us as companies operating in this field, we need to understand: is it that we want to solve a kind of the financial system as it is right now, or is it that we want to build something new from the ground? A kind of like this. Probably, if you allow me to slip a little bit. So anyway, what we currently see is that a couple of months ago, Europe was on the forefront of the adoption of the blockchain technologies, but now with a little bit with what we've seen happening in China, I think in a way, and I'm kind of planning to drop a bomb a little bit here, is that I think in a way that China is a kind of probably ahead of us. We need to be super vigilant. We need to understand what we want to achieve, and I think in a way that kind of we need to be very reactive. We need to be super proactive, not reactive. Sorry, super proactive right now if we want to be kind of successful. If we want to make something strong. Apologies for this kind of a random thoughts, but this is what I've thought. I believe that currently Europe is lagging behind, and this is probably one of the meetings that we need to be very kind of I don't know, like we need to be super honest and tell ourselves that we need to be super active. We need to do something smart. If we don't want to be kind of lacking behind China. Sorry.
Well, no, Petko, I think you shouldn't. Sorry, you shouldn't be sorry. You I think you were very clear and also very ambitious there, which probably then allows me to go directly to the next speaker, which is going to be in this case Lucas Repa from the European Commission. Obviously, we are very happy to have someone representing the Commission here with us, and also someone who's really been focusing on blockchain. But I would say, especially based on what Petko said, we probably need to see also some courage and some boldness on the side of our political and regulatory institutions. I mean, we know the Commission has set the ambition for Europe to become the leader in blockchain technology, okay? And the many developments, etc. What is now the overview of the situation, and how would you react to what Petko said about the position of China and the need for Europe to be more proactive? So what would be your initial reaction to that?
So thank you very much, Sebastiano, first of all, for inviting the European Commission to be present here. I see it's a very distinguished panel, and we have already heard a lot of very interesting interventions, both from Almudena and from Petko. Perhaps as a very first reaction before I go into the details of our policy, is that I would see the current situation a bit slightly more rosy, perhaps, just to give a little bit of a different twist. It's correct what Petko says, that China is ahead in some areas of technologies. In some areas of technology, they're not ahead. In some areas of technology, like blockchain, they have a fundamentally different vision for what the technology should be allowed to do in their country. So I think if we take that into consideration and we see the thriving blockchain innovation we have in some of our capitals in Europe, I think we don't need to be afraid of China. China is, of course, able to scale up things through the People's Bank of China, through the government, at a speed that is impressive. But still, we're in a good position, we're in a good shape. So in terms of European policies, we've been doing several things. First of all, we've tried to combine the knowledge about blockchain in Europe, the academic knowledge, through our think tank, which is the European Blockchain Observatory and Forum, or perhaps some of you have attended some workshops or have participated as experts in writing thematic reports of the observatory. It's a very important initiative. It allows us also to understand the latest trends and developments, such as decentralized finance, non-fungible tokens, and the energy consumption of blockchain. Very important for us as policymakers to be always up to speed and have the knowledge it takes to make good laws. The second big initiative we have launched is to encourage the public sector to act as a trailblazer for blockchain technologies. Blockchain technologies can play an important role in the public sector, but there's a lot of convincing that you need to do. I think this comes back to what Almudena said, is that in the regulatory field, regulators often lack a bit the understanding of what these permissionless blockchains do. So we have decided we get all the European member states together, we join the experts, and we build a European blockchain services infrastructure. And understand that in the introductory speech that we've heard from the government of Slovenia, there was also reference to the European blockchain services infrastructure, the pre-commercial procurements, and all the initiatives we're setting there in order to scale up blockchain technologies and federate them around one big European project that accelerates blockchain deployment in the public sector. And then, of course, we're also supporting blockchain innovation through global cooperation. We believe, and this comes back to the point of good governance that Almudena has also made, that we want blockchain applications to be subject to good governance. It's a matter of credibility, a matter of building trust. And this is why we have been supportive when industry and governmental officials built the International Association for Trusted Blockchain Applications. And I'm very happy that Marc Taverner is here to speak today as well. And then last but not least, we are supporting blockchain innovation through research funding, and I can give a bit more details later, and through regulatory certainty. And one of the latest initiatives we are going to set here is to build a pan-European regulatory sandbox that will be attached to the European blockchain services infrastructure, which will allow startups that cooperate with the EPSI to also obtain legal certainty about the business models, the blockchain innovation they're planning. And we are planning to cooperate with our colleagues in DG FISMA on a regulatory sandbox for fintech, where blockchain will also play an important role. So that's something that's of interest perhaps for fintech. And finally, in terms of legislative certainty, you mentioned the MiCA. I think the MiCA is really at the forefront of legislation globally. It's such a comprehensive framework for cryptocurrency. Our legislation is quite unique, and we hope it will provide more certainty to startups and SMEs in using ICOs, STOs, and so forth. So that was a bit of a also rumbling, but a bit of a warm-up introduction from the Commission side. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Lucas. I mean, I'm still looking for a strong reaction to what Petko mentioned about China, but of course I take your message that you are positive anyway, and that's good to hear, at least from the Commission. Let me continue then with perhaps the next panelist, Marc Taverner, who is Executive Director of INATBA, International Blockchain Association. Marc, first of all, what would be your reaction to what you just heard? Are you satisfied with what the Commission is doing? And also, more in general, what is your take about the situation in the blockchain market, especially in view of what we had since a year ago, which means essentially the pandemic? So what is a little bit what are your thoughts about all this?
Thank you, Sebastiano, for organizing this wonderful event and for inviting us today. And thank you for all the great comments and interventions prior to this. Let me just reflect on your first question, which I think was, are we satisfied with what the European Commission is doing? And I'm speaking on behalf of INATBA's members. So approximately 170 private sector companies and other trade associations who are all focused on developing blockchain applications. We've been very pleasantly surprised with the positive engagement we've had across the entire European Commission, European Parliament, in particular calling out MiCA, the marketing crypto assets, the pilot regime, or PRR as it's better known, and then the ongoing developments around thoughts on taxation, KYC and AML, and indeed education. What we found, and the reason why we have been pleasantly surprised, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, is that my personal anticipation was that we would be met with greater skepticism from regulators. In fact, what we found is a willingness to engage and a willingness to learn, and has been testified through the developing positions on both MiCA and the pilot regime, a willingness to be flexible as well. So I do think that Europe is positioning itself quite well from a regulatory perspective. And I share Lucas's comments that the European regulation, at least as it is developing thus far in relation to crypto assets and the token economy, is starting to move in the right direction. Of course, there's always more work we could do, as Lucas knows, and I won't go into that now. We talk very directly, very openly, from an evidential basis, providing opinions from the industry, but also trying to help the industry translate the way in which regulators think. And I think this point around education that Almudena mentioned right at the very start is critical. I reflect almost 8 years ago when I started in this blockchain journey at a session that I was on in Davos, where somebody asked us what the most important aspects were that were the takeaways from our panel. And I said 3 words, and those 3 words I think still stand true today. The 3 words were education, education, education. And that goes in both directions. We, as you know, Sebastiano, we're working together in a consortia called SHAES, which is looking to develop over a 4-year period a blueprint for how blockchain education could be rolled out across Europe. And what's fascinating at this point where there is such high growth, such speedy innovation, and such fragmentation in the blockchain applications is that we still don't have a strong approach to helping translate the way regulators think and legislators think and the way private sector wishes to develop. So I think as an industry, and when I talk about the industry, I talk about the public sector and the private sector together. I still think there is a lot more work that we need to do to make both sides of this industry accessible to each other. And if there was one topic that I would urge colleagues, peers, and the industry to work on, it's how can we share this knowledge? Because the concept of decentralization, the concept of our marketplace is quite unique in that it's based on open information. It's based on open systems, and that should imply that knowledge and learning is open to all. And I don't think we've done as yet a good enough job as an industry to get to that point. So they're my initial thoughts, Sebastiana. Happy to build on any of those and the other topics that have been mentioned as well. Excuse me.
Indeed. Thank you, Marc, for this introduction. Okay, let me then continue the first round of interventions. Perhaps I'll go to the last one of our speakers, Chiara Ventura. Chiara is here replacing Pietro Azzara, president of Italia for Blockchain. She's a colleague of Pietro, who's unfortunately had an urgent family problem, so he apologized that he couldn't come. So perhaps, Chiara, you could give us also the perspective of you are based in Italy, as the name of the association says, and you are active in the promotion and support for the adoption of blockchain. So you can tell us a little bit the experience which is happening a little bit on the ground as an association, which is very close to the businesses. So what is your take, and what do you think are the trends in the adoption of the blockchain technology, and what do you think we should be doing to promote competitiveness of the SMEs in this sector and in the other sectors? So Chiara, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. As Sebastian mentioned, I'm here on behalf of Pietro Azzara, who could not be here, unfortunately, but he sends his regards, and I will try to fill in his shoes as best as I can. So first, some information about Italia for Blockchain, if I may. Italia for Blockchain is the first and most important association in Italy for the dissemination of knowledge on blockchain and the promotion of the technology, also among most traditional companies. We count today more than 1,000 associates among startups, SMEs, universities and professors, university professor students, and so on. We are members of Digital SME Alliance, founding members of Italian Digital SME Alliance, as well as founding members of INATBA. We're also very active at the international level and participating to European projects, as mentioned, Chase, by Sebastian and Marc as well. We are participating to that project together with them. I'm very proud of being part of the consortium, since we are very focused on education, which has been a huge topic today as well. So to go back to the question, though, I will say that there are various interesting trends in the blockchain sphere that could boost SMEs' competitiveness at the Italian level and the European level, of course. So, of course, blockchain can make process more efficient and transparent for SMEs. For traditional sectors, there's a lot of interest in Italy for agri-food, supply chain management, and so on. There's also an interesting trend to shift to blockchains that create positive impact for sustainability and are not harmful to the environment. But apart from these considerations, I believe especially promising trends are NFTs as a way to share data, manage rights related to data, for instance, and not only just in relation to arts, but also real estate, licensing and certifications, product traceability, anti-counterfeiting, healthcare, and so on. SSI, of course, is a big trend and has grown in importance, especially in this historical phase. In the financial sector, there is DeFi, which is disrupting the financial landscape. There are growing opportunities in the energy sectors, pharmaceutical sectors, and so on. As an association, we are seeing, we are often contacted by companies wanting to understand how to leverage blockchain, how to introduce it into this more traditional business of theirs. So we see a growing interest, but the answer here, I think, and here, I think I'll join the chorus of the other speakers, risking to sound controversial. Education is really, really important and fundamental. This is why it's part of our core actions in Italy. But none of these trends, none of these opportunities, there are many in the blockchain landscape, are going to be fully leveraged if there isn't a change in culture also in European SMEs. I believe, let me elaborate more. I believe there are three things that are necessary. So skills, competencies, and we cannot expect SMEs to create them themselves alone. Resources, and the EU is doing a great job. We do have financing instruments that are there for blockchain research through the Horizon program and so on. But there is a third element that is missing. So a problem of culture in leveraging these resources that are available and actively seeking them by low and medium tech SMEs who often have a cautious approach. So courage and boldness that was mentioned before also has to be on our side and this side of the table. So we can do that also, of course, trying to eradicate mistrust and the lack of knowledge that there is in the field, and the lack of human resources to allocate to projects, the lack of skilled professionals who can guide companies in the blockchain journey. So we have to promote a changing culture, I believe, as well, to a more proactive one and develop blockchain skills at various levels, because there is a prayer of opportunities that SMEs can leverage if we can do so. So this is my food for thought.
Okay, thank you, Chiara, very clear. With that, perhaps we have concluded the first round. And since I see that Peter Geršak is still with us, thank you for that. I know you have to leave in a few minutes, so before you leave, Peter, I wanted to give you the chance perhaps to react to what you heard from the panel, and also to say what you think about what has been said until now, but also take the opportunity because we have received a question from the people who are in the room, which I'm going to read loud. It's perhaps a bit technical, so you see if you can answer. The person is Lazar Iliev, is asking if which technology you see is best fit for the government blockchain system, and what is the most important from your perspective for these to happen. So it's quite open, but perhaps a bit technical question. So the floor is yours, Peter, to let us know if you have thoughts about.
Thank you. I cannot comment the China relationship. I'm sorry for that. But in my previous life, I was actually a technical person, being CTO in one of the vendors, and I can comment the blockchain. So I cannot comment the technology because I think that technologically we have to make sure that the different technology blockchains are interoperable, interoperability between each other. So what I would like to really say is that the enterprise blockchains, there is probably a lot of room, a lot of space, and distributed ledger technologies in the enterprises, in the companies, in the public sector, and so on. So this ICO hype and the crypto startups and all these things, I think that this was all fine, but we have learned a lot, and now is really time to give the technology as DLT the chance, the opportunity to work for us. So I'm really sorry I have to run now. Thank you for the opportunity, for the invite. I'm really honored. I wish you all the best and have a nice the rest of the conference. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Peter, for being with us. We'll continue, and we'll let you know, obviously, when we finish the event. We'll produce a report, so we'll keep you informed. And obviously, all the best for your excellent work in the presidency of the EU Council.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Continuing then with our discussion in the panel, perhaps I'll go back to Almudena, to the floor first, to ask her if she has any reactions to what she heard, and especially to give us also her position, her ideas on the evolution of the sector in the upcoming years. So what do you think are the main drivers for the upcoming evolution?
Thank you very much. Yeah, very great insights from all my colleagues. Well, first, I think I agree with Lucas that I also see things quite rosy. Actually, I see a lot of potential in Europe. I see we are building a European technology hub, which is based on our European values, and this is also very important. And sometimes when we talk about innovation and the path of innovation and competitiveness worldwide, which is of course very, very important, we tend to forget that we want to build this future in a sustainable way and based in our European values. And keeping or taking care of this also sometimes is at the cost of speediness or very partial moves that might seem to be very, very, very innovative, very fast, very quick, very good, very positive for the industry, but all together, if you look at the full picture, might not be the ideal ones altogether for the society, for the people, for a human-centered, technology-based society. So I think this also, when we talk about education, and we always tend to talk, and I started with this speech about supervisors, I think we also need to educate the industry, and especially maybe the crypto based mentality or companies that tend to forget also that there are some principles, protection, consumer protections, investors protection that we agreed as a society to foster and to protect and to go for, and we need to bring that also to this blockchain world. What we're seeing in terms of, and I worked also from blockchain intelligence with many SMEs companies and digitalization of traditional SMEs with blockchain on one side, but I also was part of the Blockchains project funded by the European Commission from Alastria, and I am a member of the board of Alastria blockchain ecosystem in Spain with 540 SME companies. So from all this global vision, and we did a specific research on the evolution of blockchain, it is very clear. It is an exponential, transformative technology that is changing all the sectors, and it's changing them in two ways, bringing efficiency to the current models, but what I think is more important is that it brings new models, the possibility to create new business models. And this is maybe where, if we talk about pushing for it or bringing Europe to the next step and an extra mile, I think we need to focus as well, because I think traditional SMEs are focusing on digitalization to create more efficiency of their current models, to reduce costs and all these. And for this, the speech of selling blockchain is easy because you reduce intermediaries, so you reduce costs, and this it's very easy to understand. What is more challenging for them is to try to create new business models that are truly making them and allowing them to be competitive worldwide. And there's also space for a different approach towards SME digitalization, traditional SME digitalization, that I think we need to approach in a stronger way. But I think also to finish that the approach that Europe is taking, first, it made it very clear politically that is supporting this technology with the European Blockchain Partnership already years back. But then with for me, 3 pieces of action: regulatory, we had the resolutions by the ESMA and EBA already in 2019, and we have MiCAR and all this regulatory work. Also, I think it's very easy to approach the institutions, so there is a dialogue. We from Blockchain Intelligence, we have labs with our Spanish regulators, supervisors, to create this dialogue as well. We have the full infrastructure with EBSI, but also very important, which was not too far mentioned today, digital identity and sovereign identity, and the whole ESIF framework, which is essential for the development of new solutions. I think it's completely transformative of the European economy and society. And then the full package of EU-funded programs. And for instance, right now, we're also working in a consortium called Diversities to reduce pollution in medium-sized cities, where, I mean, the full project is based on creating a blockchain solution to promote a CO2 reduction, emissions reduction. So basically, we see that the Commission also appreciated the fact that we introduced this technology into the project to, basically give us and choose our project for this objective. So I think the puzzle, the pieces are in place, and we're building it together. And we talk about how to push for it faster. But I am quite positive, and we see solutions in the market that are very, very good, very, very positive, that are both front end and back end, also improving the capacity and the costs and efficiency of the companies. And what I maybe would say is that funding is an issue, and maybe fostering, and I think this will be very positive, the sandbox, the blockchain sandbox will bring a lot of insights and knowledge into all this for the future. And maybe a blockchain like Alastria, which has 0 gas costs, so to make tests and proofs, and is also a good opportunity for startups to make their pilots and test their options before maybe they use other blockchains for their solutions.
Okay, thank you, Almudena. I mean, you said a few things that are really music to my ears, because reminds what we hear from some of our entrepreneurs in different aspects. I'm afraid we won't have time to do a full round of the other people in the panel, because we have to move quickly to the second panel. But let me at least ask Petko, who's the one who, as an entrepreneur, as the entrepreneur in this panel, was trying to really as you said, drop a bomb to really provoke the discussion. So how would you react to what you heard? Kind of positive feelings from the other speakers, but what is your feeling as a person which is really on the market?
My intention, thank you, Sebastiano. My intention wasn't to drop a kind of a bomb and then see how it goes. I don't share the rosy, the pinky story the other guys are selling. Sorry, period. That's it. I wouldn't change my mind even after hearing Alastria, EBSI, etc. I think Europe is lagging behind. I think we need to probably have a separate discussion and see what are our faults, why we failed. I think the digital yuan, I think the digital renminbi is so far ahead of us that we can only watch and see how it goes. And that's it. That's my very humble, very sincere opinion. I'm sorry that I'm kind of living this. Even the States is ahead of us. Not that we are competing. Not that yes, we are competing, of course, but I wouldn't share the rosy thinking. Probably after a couple of years. Let's see how it goes, but not right now. Sorry.
Well, I wouldn't blame you for being very clear, Petko, because someone has to say the things as they are. And yeah, we can all go on and say, yeah, we are perfect, we are doing well, but perhaps we should be a little bit disruptive because if we are not, others are going to be. And as we have seen in the last 20 years, you know, the money has gone elsewhere, right? Maybe Lucas, before we close, you also want to say something. Yeah, go ahead.
Apologies, Lucas. Sorry. We need sandboxes. We need a lot of innovation. We need to sponsor this innovation, not particularly with probably a kind of a taxpayer's money, but we need to be super vigilant. That's what that's my 20 cents. Sorry.
Well,
Lucas, you last word.
I'll get in quickly because I certainly don't want to oversell. I don't want to put on rosy glasses and exaggerate the situation, but perhaps just to pick up on the digital yuan, to my understanding, that's not a blockchain project. At least I haven't read in any of the reports I've seen that this is about blockchain. This seems to be something very traditional, central bank-based account system. So it's not, technologically speaking, not cutting edge. It's a competing product that should essentially give the banks a way back into the market after this has been taken by Alibaba, Alipay, and Tencent. So it's a big project, but I don't think we should call it a blockchain project. I'm talking about blockchain technologies, and I think there we really don't need to be ashamed of China. China has, from the very beginning onwards, had a very critical approach to blockchain, has not allowed a lot of the innovation that we have seen in Europe, has cracked down on the cryptocurrency use of blockchain, which we haven't done in the same way. So I'm not sure that China is really the exemplary market when it comes to blockchain deployment. China certainly has scale. China can move fast if the government puts a lot of money behind it, and they do have excellent universities. Meanwhile, we have to take them seriously as a competitor, as a partner as well. But I wouldn't be too much afraid. I think the one challenge that Europe has and will always have is our fragmentation. We are a number of small countries. Our experts speak different languages. Funding comes from different governments, and the difficulty is to federate this. So taken together, we would have the power to compete with China, but the problem is so fragmented, and the initiatives that we are setting in Brussels really try to overcome these fragmentations, both in legislative areas when it comes to funding, through the Digital Euro program, through the Horizon Europe program, through the European Blockchain Services infrastructure with its pre-commercial procurement, giving SMEs the opportunity to come in, to contribute, to become part of the ecosystem. We're trying to federate these ecosystems, we're trying to overcome the fragmentation, but we have a lot of excellent brains in Europe, and we have the innovation, and I think we also have the talent that it takes, and if we work together, we can overcome the fragmentation. So I'm a little bit more optimistic, I would say, Petko.
Okay, thank you, Lucas. In the meantime, I was told that we have another few minutes, so we can. I don't need to stop you speaking. Marc, you had also raised your hand, so please take the floor.
Yeah, thanks, Sebastiano. So let me pick up on Petko's point, because I agree that China could be a challenge in its model. And I think this is where the different governments, the different regulators have an opportunity ahead of them. And some time ago, we were talking about regulatory arbitrage, i.e., where is the most supportive jurisdiction that entrepreneurs building blockchain applications could get that legal certainty to be able to build out their operations. And I think we've kind of gone past that point now. And we're at an interesting juncture, an interesting point of development, where the industry is looking to governments and kind of saying to governments, okay, which of you now is going to really support this opportunity, is going to create an environment where the entrepreneurs can come and be entrepreneurs and be innovators. Now, to Petko's point, I spent a good amount of time in China in the early days of blockchain, specifically working for one of the foundational ASIC semiconductor chip designers and Bitcoin miners. And I'm not entirely sure maybe. I'm not entirely sure that that would be an environment that where I'd still an entrepreneur and not leading a multi-stakeholder environment. So if I was still an entrepreneur, would that be a place where I would choose to base my business? I'm not entirely sure, and I don't mean that in a negative way to China and the direction they're moving in. I just see that other jurisdictions are trying to create more favorable and supportive environments where entrepreneurialism can be better supported, where you have more certainty, where there isn't a fear that your electricity may be turned off overnight, or trucks from the government services might turn up and load all of your machinery onto it. So I do take your point, Petko, that China has power, it has scale. When it moves, it can move and create momentum. And that represents something that we have to consider as a global industry. But then equally, so does an approach that creates more sustainability, that allows the joint development of a regulatory environment that supports entrepreneurialism. And we're still a way off that. So, you know, as Lucas knows, I keep pushing the Commission on behalf of our members. In the same way, we keep pushing the US with their infrastructure bill, which is going in an entirely different direction. And we keep pushing those individual topics that Almudena mentioned, for example, like identity. And a good example of where there is really fantastic opportunity maybe to find some common ground is in applications of blockchain for social impact. So where the true value of blockchain can be leveraged to create opportunity for those of us, those people around the world who might be less fortunate, or where there are really good projects to do, for example, with a reduction of greenhouse emissions. And I'd just like to finish, Sebastiano, by drawing attention to a report we published on this very topic just recently, where we looked at over 300 initiatives that aim to support blockchain for social impact. It's a report that can be downloaded from our website. It is fascinating to talk about finance, DeFi, NFTs, to look at the history of ICOs, and to go back further still to the Genesis block on Ethereum and Bitcoin networks. But the real potential here is far wider than just finance. And I think that's where there is a prize on offer for forward-looking governments and regulators. And the time is now for them to seize this opportunity to develop the standards, to build this environment and attract the entrepreneurs. Because back to Petko's point, if it doesn't happen now, another jurisdiction is going to seize that. And once that intelligence moves, it will be over. You won't get it back.
Yeah. Thank you, Marc. And I think we can all agree with you, because there is really, we are at a point in time where there is great expectation on the government side, because the industry, at least the providers, they are there. The market is more and more ready to really jump on this, but we want a government to step up and be up for the challenge and really be bold and believe that something new can happen, something disruptive. So I'm glad that we had Slovenia and the Commission with us today, and I know I'm talking to people which don't need to be converted, but of course government is a much broader than just the experts we had with us today. Okay, before we conclude, maybe I don't know if Petko, you wanna react before we conclude. Otherwise, we'll go to the second panel.
Yeah. First of all, thanks very much for kind of allowing me to share my kind of a sincere views. And back to Lucas, I think that our European fragmentation in the sense of blockchain could be our favor. This is something that we need to be working on. So I think in a way that fragmentation is not a curse. I think it's like the fundamentals of a new, probably, or kind of a hybrid financial system might be in our favor. Just wanted to share this with you. So my kind of thoughts are not grim, but I think that we need to step a little bit back and kind of stop talking blockchain kind of conversations, but we need to be very concrete, very, very active, and kind of stop kind of talking innovation, digitalization, but to be working. That's what we want. I mean, the businesses want. They want sandboxes. They want to work. They want to do something, even to fail, but they need to do something. Sorry. Apologies, Sebastiano, for being very frank.
No, it's okay. It's 10 minutes past 12, and I'm glad to conclude with your words as an entrepreneur. And you cannot express in the good or in the bad. You are certainly the best person to express the positions of many other entrepreneurs, which have hopes, but also some frustration from time to time. But it's good to have people like you who are trying hard to make things happen and to move ahead. With this, I would like to thank all the panelists, Almudena, Petko, Lucas, Marc, and Chiara for being with us. Please bear with us a bit longer. We're going to move now to the second panel, and I'm happy that Margherita Leder is with us, because Margherita is going to moderate the second panel, which is about real use cases, success stories of SMEs. So Margherita, I leave this to you, and I'll see you later for the continuation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sebastiano, and all the participants to the first panel. It was extremely interesting to hear your talk and your discussion. And nice to meet everybody who is with us today. My name is Margherita Leder. I'm the co-chair of the Digital SME and Task Force, together with Petko, who you just met in the previous talk. And we're really happy to be discussing this second panel today, because while discussing regulations and how regulators can support the evolution of the blockchain ecosystem across the globe and in the European Union, it's extremely important to focus on use cases. And I'd like to emphasize that, as we have so many regulators with us today, the importance of use case provide a concrete application of what we are discussing, solutions that are effective for the market, solutions that actually solve problems. As we always say, not one technology is not going to solve all the problems that enterprises, that SMEs have. Some solutions can solve some problems, specific solutions, specific problems, specific solutions. And this is why we have participants today who are going to explain to us how they are leveraging on the technology to create solutions for the market, for the companies, for the people. And it's really important also to stress that SMEs, because of how they are designed, that they're extremely suitable to develop new solutions based on the problems they see upcoming. They're faster, they move quickly in the market, they're efficient in changing the way they are designing the solution. So having the participants here allows us to see how actually in concrete this can happen. And I hope we will have many questions after the presentation. Each of them will have 5 minutes. Thank you very much for being with us today. I just want to give a quick introduction to who is here with us. We have Emilian Enev from Geršak.io. Welcome, Emilian. We have Jean-Christophe Finidori from Hold GNG. Sorry for mispronouncing in case, and Alessandro Kelly from Trusty. And we should be joined soon by Irene Hernandez from Gataka. So I leave the floor to our first speaker. So Emilian from Geršak.io, the floor is yours. Feel free to explain to us your solution.
Thank you, Margherita, and hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me well.
Perfectly well.
Yeah, pleasure to participate in this event, and congratulations for the initiative. We had a very nice and pleasant and very sincere talk. And I'll be happy to present the solutions that we have been developing with Geršak. So Geršak is a Dutch-Bulgarian startup. We started developing practical blockchain solutions back in 2016. I would say that we were one of the pioneers. And we are focused on using blockchain for ensuring trust, security, and privacy in the way sensitive data is being shared, is being managed. And you can see some of the components of our solution. There are, of course, identity wallets working with mobile applications. There is a backend application, which we call trusted data sharing. And we are using blockchain as a notary. And you can see this in the next slide. Could you please switch to the next one? So I have discovered that it's always a good idea to use some visuals, some diagrams, some infographics in order to explain a bit abstract concept. So Usually, I'm using such images when I communicate with our partners and clients. So this is just a visualization to show what could be the utility, what could be the value of blockchain in ensuring trust, security, and privacy. So on the left side are organizations or users. Could you please go to the previous one? Thank you. So on the left side, some organizations, they need to interact with partners, with clients, with users, with the outside world. But there's insecure internet, and they would like to protect and to trace especially sensitive or personal information. So they're using a service called Data Exchange application, which is provided by our company. And then for each interaction with data, we record some evidence on the blockchain. So we are using blockchain as a digital notary, as you can see. And based on digital identities of the users, encryption, smart contracts, you can make sure that this data is shared only with the intended recipient, the company or the user with whom you interact. And there is an ultimate level of security and privacy because nobody else can read, access this data. And you can make sure that it is accessed by the right user or organization, and there is a verifiable evidence on the blockchain. Next slide, please. So we have limited time, and I wanted to allocate enough time for sharing some lessons. And as I mentioned, we have been developing practical blockchain solutions for the last 5 years, and perhaps these are some of the most important lessons or conclusions for our company. I believe that this is also applicable for other players in the blockchain world. And something that we worked the hard way is that it's not a good idea to explain the technology, to push it, to try to sell the technology itself, the blockchain. So it's about solving real-world use cases, problems, bringing value. So this is my advice to blockchain startups. Don't try to preach or to explain some complex and abstract ideas about the technology. Be really pragmatic and focus on solving real problems. Another thing that is really crucial, and what we are trying to provide as a value, is that user experience is the king. User experience is what makes the difference. So there are a number of bottlenecks in blockchain, wallets, hashes, transactions, etc. And what we're trying to do now is really to hide blockchain. So people don't need to know what's happening below the surface. So blockchain is working below, but there is no complex operations and anything that can put some barriers in front of the user experience. So we are just using this blockchain as an enabler, as a digital notary, as it was shown in the previous slide. Another thing is that in the last several years, we were very, how to say, concerned, to some extent afraid about these regulatory gray zones, or the legal certainty of the smart contracts, and what's happening with certain transactions, and what is the legal aspect of this. So now we are a bit more confident, and we can see that there are a number of regulatory initiatives, like the new ADAS regulation that defines electronic ledgers. And based on the implemented projects, we can say with high degree of confidence that startups don't need to worry too much and to use blockchain as a system that boosts security. Maybe one of my final points, not applying blockchain in existing use cases and processes. Rethink, re-engineer, think how efficiency can be improved, think about automation, think about how we can deal with digital identities, maybe new business model, new ways to interact, to share information. So try to get this out of the box thinking and figure out what is the new way to organize business processes using this technology. Don't just apply it to the current processes. And many people are saying that blockchain is moving slowly, but please keep in mind that there are a number of mental models, stereotypes that were created for the last maybe not decades, centuries, even thousands of years, this centralized system of creating trust. So given these established mental models, I would say that blockchain is moving pretty fast. And in the next 10 years, I believe it will be the most transformational, the most disruptive in the human history. So this...
Thank you, Emilian.
Yeah, I'm finished. Exactly. That was my last sentence. Thank you, Margareta.
Thank you very much, Emilian, especially for focusing on the lesson learned, because that's also what we're looking forward to have, to understand a bit more how we are evolving. And we are not here now where we were 5 years ago. So we had some learnings, and it's really important to leverage on them also for the new solutions we're building. Thank you very much again. And I'd like to leave the floor to Irene Hernandez from Gataka. Welcome, Irene. The floor is yours to describe us how you're leveraging on the technology for your solution. We are not.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Hear me now?
Yes, perfect. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. Let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Irene. I'm the founder and CEO at Gataka, which is an MIT-born cybersecurity company that builds decentralized digital identity technology. Before I start, many of you know what SSI is all about, but let me take a step back with regards to digital identities and go back to the root problem. And for that purpose, let me make myself a little bit smaller. There you go. Okay, imagine you wake up in the morning and you reach your phone and see 10 charges from Amazon orders that you've never executed. I'm sorry, but you've been hacked. And don't think that this will never happen to you, because identity fraud has become the largest and fastest growing type of cybersecurity attack. This is something that we need to interiorize. What is not working today? Well, current authentication architectures force users to manage multiple accounts and passwords, and so for tedious onboarding processes, really. And businesses, on the other hand, concentrate so much sensitive information that they become handpots for hackers. But this all has changed now. With decentralized technologies, we can create one single identity with which we can access any service worldwide. How does this unique identity really look like? Well, what we do is to empower users with an ID wallet in their phones and with verified credentials so that they can have passwordless, government-grade secured access to digital services instantly. These identity credentials, say an ID, an academic diploma, or an employee card, are digitized according to a new internet standard. They're cryptographically signed by trusted authorities, and they're securely stored in your mobile wallet so that you can instantly share them with service providers and control at any time who has access to them. Our decentralized identity technology is not just an ID wallet. Our platform also includes a credential issuance tool for trusted authorities and single sign-on authentication tools for businesses. Most of you know, this new architecture is called self-sovereign identity, and it is so powerful that many governments worldwide are already implementing this concept. In fact, the European Commission just announced the modification of the eIDAS regulation to create a new European digital identity that follows many of the principles of decentralized identities. The government of Germany and Spain have already taken the first step and signed a memorandum of understanding to cooperate on the development of SSI in their countries. And the best part is that for our market at least, is that it will be mandatory for governments to provide and for businesses to accept as an authentication method. Because identities cross to every single sector. Organizations will always have to identify clients or users or employees or providers in order to conduct business. However, our priority focus today is on governments and universities who are currently pioneering use cases in the region. These organizations are already trusting in us. In just over 2 years, we've managed to develop a comprehensive SSI product suite and to deploy it in governments and universities across Europe. It is worth highlighting a strategic contract we've signed with a European Central Administration for the development of our technology, potentially on a national scale, and a recurrent contract where we are advising the European Commission itself to EPSI SIF program to help them define the regulatory and technological framework for SSI in the region. By the way, 65% of these contracts have been closed during the BlockIS program. It has not been an easy road for us, if I have to tell. And I'm sure that we will have many roadblocks ahead, yet we've reached important milestones, and in great part thanks to the fact that Europe is offering two key elements for our sector. First, the development of a regulatory and technical specifications. In our case, all the work done by the IDAS team, the EPSI teams, etc. Because with a regulatory framework that supports our industry and infuses trust into the market, innovative SMEs like us will never thrive in a world of startups. And second, investment. In companies creating new markets, there is little space for traditional venture capital market, as they finally seek metrics and parameters that have yet to be measured. Programs like BlockES, other cascade funding programs, the EIC accelerator are perhaps the most important resource that SMEs like us can have, especially in the blockchain industry. And what is missing? Well, if you ask me, I would add 3 elements that I would like to see a little bit more developed in our region. First, greater incentives for large organizations to work with SMEs. Second, the representation of SMEs in key forums, because in many of the conferences I'm attending, I can only see that this and that direction of large organizations are leading the debate. Where are the SMEs? Third, more flexible contracting processes, particularly when we're talking about collaboration between the public sector and SMEs, which is often the case in the blockchain sector. Fourth and lastly, more leadership and coordination at European level to avoid fragmentation, the fragmentation we were listening before. SMEs need to aim global. But I often see a few countries more advanced than others, making more progress than others, which creates market asymmetries within Europe and a disadvantage with respect to other regions.
Thank you. Thank you. I will ask you if you can wrap up. So just we have enough time, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, my last comment actually, I want to mention that in the short term, SSI lays down a means to reduce administrative and operational and compliance costs for public administrations and businesses. But in the long term, it can help provide a solution to 1 billion people that don't have an identity or proof of identity. So I just wanted to take advantage of this opportunity. Thank you to invite large organizations and policymakers alike to join our mission and foster SSI in the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Irene. Some of the points you raised actually were discussed also in the previous call, so that's overlapping. And I'd like to leave the floor to Jean-Christophe Finidori to present his solution. Welcome. Thank you for being with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I have a couple of slides. Maybe you have it to share it, or if you don't, I can go through. That's okay. That's fine.
Well, ask the technical team if they can share the slide.
But, yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. So I'm Jean-Christophe Finidori, founder of ODL-NG. So Margarita, for your information, ODL, it's a joke in the cryptography, in the crypto industry, means hold it for your dear life. And we use it, this joke, as a brand name related to the natural gas sector. So ODL-NG is, let's say, blockchain for LNG in our specific industry. We were very fortunate indeed to be awarded by BlockIS 2 years ago. And it's funny because today we just blow our 2 candles. So it's our anniversary. Our startup has just 2 years. And we have to admit that without BlockIS support and grants, we couldn't achieve that. So once again, thanks to this program. We are focusing on one specific industry, the liquefied natural gas industry. But at large, we are trying to use and to apply blockchain technology to the natural resource extractive industry. Next slide, please. So we are a team of 3 founders. We incorporated the company in Tallinn, Estonia. As a quick follow-up on what I've heard from the previous panel, no, China was not an option for us to set up the company. And Estonia, it was indeed the right place to do that. But because we have heard some people from Slovenia, for instance, what I would like to add here is it's really important for a startup like us to incorporate and to join and to be supported by a young country. I would say a country has a startup, and Estonia, Lithuania, Slovenia, and others, they have such a great spirit for that. We are very fortunate to have advisors. I put it here, the 2 advisors that we have in Europe, but we have advisors in Canada, Australia, even the CEO of Pakistan LNG. And with our team, we are sharing the same vision, meaning that we want to leverage all the environmental and social benefits through LNG transactions. And meaning that we want to be sure, and this is the way that we conceive the system, we want to make sure that natural resources benefits to everybody, including those people on the ground from, in our case, LNG exporters. Next slide, please. So how we do that? With the support of Blockchain, we create what we call a digital version of a cargo. It's a virtual representation of a specific cargo with a specific volume of gas. Thanks to our system, the LNG stakeholders can add and can track any information that they want to share with their counterparty. We can track, we can incentivize all non-material, value associated with a transaction. We permit to the LNG stakeholders to reflect the uniqueness of a transaction, the uniqueness of a contract, and how we do that. First, the idea is to address the 3 key elements or 3 key issues that the natural gas industry is facing currently. First, the decentralization. We, of course, from the UN perspective, we do business in a, let's say, transparent way. But what we've heard in some other part of the world, they need to have some additional trust layers and to avoid any frivolous requests or to avoid any frivolous activities. So the blockchain solution fits well for that, for the decentralization. Let's say how I can trust someone I'm dealing with in a different part of the world. On the top of that, we consider the system since the very beginning with the idea that, as I said to the beginning, that the natural resource should be benefits to the people on the ground. So we have a redistribution system, meaning that anytime an LNG stakeholders create a digital asset, for instance, we are collecting some fees in a value pool, and at the end of the process, they can choose some vetted NGOs or vetted beneficiaries, and we can transfer part of this fees to the people on the ground that they have been chosen. The 2 last keys that we are focusing on is decarbonization. As you know, natural gas industry is a fossil industry. So there are, of course, and they are communicating on the fact that they can mitigate the climate change issue, and they have a role to play, and this is completely true of that, because in some countries, those who are phasing out from coal, for example, they are heavily invest in natural gas. In the way we support that with the digital asset is to say that they can tag a specific cargo with some information, for example, the GHG emission, offsetting compensation. They can split and they can share the burden between the buyers and the sellers. There is a clear delineation on who pay for what, who made these efforts, on which big volumes they want to decarbonize. And at the end of the process, and the digital asset, they have a proof to demonstrate that indeed they have the GHG emissions offsetting compensation done in the right way and for a very specific volume of gas. And last but not least, the digitalization. As you can imagine, the energy industry, the natural gas industry, it's a very risk-averse industry. And of course, there is a need for digitalization. This is something that we've heard from the panelists. And what the blockchain can offer and what we are offering with the digital asset, as I said, this is a virtual representation of this volume of gas, and they can add and they can showcase all the values and all the funding and all the effort that they are making in for environmental and social impact. We can integrate what we call the social carbon cost, with the idea to say that they are of course selling a natural resource, but they can demonstrate that they are making some effort to address environmental impact or to support social activities. And this digital represent that. And that's the whole purpose of what we developed so far. So we have good traction in Europe from countries that I would say from innovative countries in the Baltic region, in the southeast region of Europe. Because as I said from the beginning, this kind of technology, blockchain and everything, it's resonated positively with actors that they are new entrants. And we have some positive as well contacts in, for instance, in Thailand, in southeast of Asia, in Canada as well, in the US, with the idea to say that for new entrants, it makes sense to do things in a different way. I don't know how many times now, but just some couple of lessons that we've learned so far.
If you want to have your last remark, feel free to. You have 1 minute to go.
My last remark would be to the panelists. Would say, do not underestimate what Europe is representing for the rest of the world. Every time we showcase a solution, and they say, "Wow, you've got a grant from European Commission. You mean European Commission is funding some programs related to blockchain?" Yeah. So it's from the rest of the world perspective, the message that we send or the vision that we have, it's really important. I've noticed that in my previous job with the United Nations, when we were talking about EIDAS or GDPR, even for countries that they were not in the right jurisdiction, but this is something that we are closely looking at. And this is the thing for blockchain. In our industry, for instance, I can mention FITS 455 initiative at the European level, and all our counterparties in Asia and US, they said, okay, we are closely looking at what you are doing in Europe. So do not underestimate the impact of what you are doing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation and for your last word of advice on how to develop this market and the solution. And as our fourth presenter, I would like to welcome Alessandro Kelly from Trusty. Hello, Alessandro. Alessandro, are you? So we are seeing your presentation. Feel free to start your conversation with us. I don't know if your mic is turned on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes,
perfect.
yes, I understand. Thank you so much, Margherita. Thank you. I didn't hear you. So now here. Thank you. So now, everybody, I'm Alessandro Kelly. I'm CEO and co-founder of Appius. I'm the company that made the Trusty, and I will show you how the food industry needs to transform storytelling into fact-telling. The next slide. I don't hear you. I don't hear you. Okay, did you hear me?
Quite well, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Yes, the food trust is broken. Customer want to know what they eat and want to know the provenance of food. But in this world, in a digital world where the supply chain is global, the food is anonymous and obscure, and these things that need to be a right for customers to know the provenance of food is not so easy to achieve, because there is also $30 billion problems in food fraud. What we eat, so it's very difficult.
Alessandro, unfortunately, the connection is a bit lagging.
And
we'll ask you to
receive information about food products. The next slide. I try to. Sorry. Okay. Did you hear me? I don't know.
You can turn off your camera, Alessandro.
Okay, okay. I changed the connection. Did you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I think that will be great now. This is the food trust broken is the main point that we made to develop Trusty. Trusty is a blockchain agnostic solution that use blockchain technology in order to secure information. So it's a software as a service platform that can be used by food producer through a dashboard and a consumer application that help the food producer to declare information about the food, receive from ERP, CRM information about the track and trace events. So it's a very easy to use platform in order to, the next slide, to reduce information gap between farmers and consumers. This is the one of the main point of Trusty. The main point of for that we use blockchain technology, because in a supply chain we have several stakeholders. Every stakeholder can insert information, and blockchain technology is a backbone to share information that are secured. So it's a very important thing, because in several supply chain we have a lot of problem of data, a lot of problem of fraud on information, manomition, and so on. So it's very important to have a backbone that is secure information for consumers, but also for farmers, because they are protected instead of changing information. The next slide. Trusty, as you may know, is awarded in several competitions like BlockIS, Blockchains. We have partnered with IBM and Viserba, that are one of the most important American and European company in the food industry. For IBM, we was the first company certified in IBM Food Trust, so one of the main blockchain projects in for IBM. We have over 120 food producer registered in our platform, and starting from 2019 we start to track and trace a long supply chain of cocoa developed financed by the Italian Agency for Development and Cooperation. So we solve also problem in long supply chain in Cote d'Ivoire. The next slide. The next, thank you so much. I want only to say something for the panel. We are at the beginning. Track and trace is a very important stuff, but it's only the beginning, because we need to track and trace information in order to enable provide tomorrow decentralized finance in order to solve a problem. Think about insurance, think about access for farmers in finance institution. So track and trace will be a way to automate smart contract to operate in long supply chain and enable a new business model. Thank you so much. Sorry for the connection.
No, don't worry. it's a reality check. We still have some lagging connection sometimes. So thank you very much to all the speakers for the presentation. And Sebastiano, I give the floor back to you and to continue and conclude this incredible event. Thank you for hosting it, and I hope to see everybody soon.
Thank you, Margherita, and everyone. It was really interesting to hear the different perspectives from the businesses. The use cases are definitely impressive, and I hope they inspire the other businesses, especially the users, but also the providers, to do more, because definitely we have a great opportunity out there. With this, we have almost reached the conclusion of this Blockchain Summit 2021. And for that, I'm very happy to give the floor to MEP, member of the European Parliament, Henna Virkkunen. Henna is a returning guest to our event, so we are very happy to see you again. She is member of the Parliament since 2014. She sits in the ITRE committee. And prior to that, she has been ministry in her country, in Finland, at least twice, as far as I know. And she is definitely in the European Parliament, among the elected members, one of the most knowledgeable people about technologies and digital policies. So we are very happy that she's with us today and help us make a better connection between the world of businesses and the world of European politics and legislation. So, Anna, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much, Sebastiano, and thank you for all the speakers. I'm very happy to be invited to speak in this very inspiring seminar. I think your topic is crucial for Europe's future, because when we speak about SMEs, we know that the SMEs are really the backbone of our economy in Europe. And now we really have to promote new digital technologies, because this is the only way how Europe can stay competitive in the future. So I'm very happy that we heard so many, I think, very encouraging examples from the SMEs and really the success stories from SMEs, because I think that now accelerating the digital economy is a key factor for Europe recovering from the corona crisis. And of course, blockchain is one of the most, I think, interesting technologies we have ahead of us. Your presentations, they show that blockchain or distributed ledger technologies, it's much more than cryptocurrencies. Of course, they are maybe the most known part of the blockchains, but we heard that there is a vast potential in, for example, in energy and healthcare sector, supply chains, transport, education, insurance, and so on. And the list goes on, and I'm sure that it will be expanding in the future. I already heard when you were telling about the examples from your own businesses and success stories that one of the main challenges is that we still have very big differences between the member states in European Union, and this is the case now. We know that, for example, the infrastructure and also the skills of the people, they are very different in different member states when we speak about new technologies. I'm coming myself from Finland, and Finland is a country which has been very active, wanting to be the front runner in many digital fields in Europe, in AI, digital governance, and also distributed ledger technologies. The Finnish ministries, they have done research on what could be the practical applications of distributed ledger technologies in transport, communications, and healthcare. And it seems that there is a lot of potential. Possibilities are seen, for example, in the use of electric car charging stations, smart contracts and insurances, road tools, and also vehicle mileage verification, for example. So, for example, in the field of transport, it seems that there's a lot of potential. And of course, now when we are speaking about the Green Deal and digitalization, I think it's also a great combination to use the possibilities of blockchain to solve the challenges we are facing. So I think that now it's the right time for different stakeholders really to explore the possibilities of these technologies, just like the SMEs just presented today. I think that now, for example, the pan-European regulatory sandbox planned by the European Blockchain Partnership, expected to become operational in the coming months, is a good example of the types of initiatives we need now, bringing together regulators, companies, and tech experts to test innovative solutions and to identify possible obstacles. Of course, as a decision maker in the European level, I have to also very much think always that how could I boost these technologies in European level? And of course, we have, I think, two main tools as a decision makers. One is legislation, regulation, and another one, of course, it's funding. According to studies, bringing down the digital barriers within the European Union could increase the European Union GDP by 450 million euros. And I think that was something what was mentioned already many times, the fragmentation of the markets. It's still a challenge for us in Europe, even that we have been working on that many years. We are trying to create one digital markets to Europe, but there is still many obstacles, too many for SMEs. Because we know that a common digital single market, it would also help European technology businesses and startups by helping them to compete against also global digital giants. So I think it's crucial that our legislation is designed in a way that promotes rather than hinders innovations. So laws regulating digital technologies such as distributed ledger technology should be holistic, technology neutral, and future proof. So that is what I'm always underlining very much now when we are working with digital regulation, that we shouldn't over-regulate our markets and we should be very innovation friendly, and especially we have to take account the role of SMEs, that we shouldn't over-regulate them, and we should avoid all the red tape for SMEs and small businesses. So as mentioned in the discussions already, these technologies, they are evolving, and that's why innovation-friendly, technology-neutral approach to policy is needed to ensure long-term perspective and legal certainty also to both entrepreneurs and investors. I think this summit today is important as we need to raise also awareness about the technology and the crucial role SMEs and startups they are playing in the process. We need to discuss how to make Europe as innovation-friendly as possible. But in the same time, of course, we need to be cautious about the risks related to these new technologies and the applications. But when I'm looking as a decision maker and as a politician, what we should do in the European level, it's always that we have to create innovation-friendly regulation to Europe. And then we have to make sure that you, as a small businesses, startups, SMEs, that you should have access to finance. You should have also access to European markets. And more important is that you have also access to talented people. So we have to also invest in skills in all the European countries and digital skills. If you look at the legislation now in Europe, there is still limited legislation governing this technology directly. And it might be still too early to change legislation in member states or at the European level. But however, often there's also risks that if we are too slowly in the European level, if we are not taking action at EU level, then there's a risk that then the member states, they start to create their own legislation. We have already seen that kind of actions and discussions about blockchain, that should there be some special regulation in member states about blockchain, and we should avoid this risk because fragmentation is a big problem in Europe. So that's why it's better to be a little bit active in European level and look that we should avoid the fragmentation and the member states taking their own actions. So that's why I think it's also very good that you were organizing this SME and Blockchain Summit, so that we could really hear from the businesses what is going on and what kind of possibilities and challenges we are facing. And last but not least, I would mention the important role of EU funding, of course, here, because we speak about that kind of new technologies. I think it's crucial that we are investing more to research and innovations also in this field. Because if we look totally how much we are investing to research and development in Europe, we can see that we are lagging behind USA, Japan, Korea, even China nowadays. All of them are investing bigger part of their GDP to research and development than we are doing in Europe. So that's why I have been so much speaking about the important role of Horizon Europe and important role of funding for the SMEs, because we know that otherwise we can't be competitive in the future if we are not investing to those new technologies. So I think in the new Horizon Europe framework now, it's very important to ensure that the funding will reach also SMEs and startups directly. It was already mentioned here that blockchain is one of the digital fields where we could be front runners in Europe, and we are already. So I think we should also use all the opportunities we have now, and we should invest this field and new innovations and new businesses which are on this field. And in the same time, I think all the member states, they should take care also that in the education we are investing enough to digital skills and digital research also. I think these are keys for better future in Europe, and these are crucial for our competitiveness and success in the future. So thank you very much for this possibility to take a part to your summit, and I'd like to thank all the speakers, because I think it was very inspiring for me also to hear your success stories and these concrete examples that how you can use these new technologies in your business.
Okay, thank you very much, Henna. Thank you very much, Ms. Verkunen. With this, we can conclude our summit of today. Again, I also would like to thank all the speakers and the people who attended the event, both here in the room and through our social media, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Before concluding, I'd like to just remind everyone that in a week from now, on the 29th of September, we're going to have another very interesting event, which is going to talk about the twin transitions for SMEs, so the digital and ecological transitions for the SMEs, and it's going to look into the role of ICT standards. So how standards can help SMEs to go through this transition. I think there is a lot to do in that respect, and the standardization can, really be a tool to help our SMEs in that challenges. So again, thank you very much, and wish all of you a good continuation. See you soon.